Welcome back to Sunrise today. Well, we're joined this morning by Mr. Robert Okoroji, who is the candidate of the All Progressive Congress for the Lagos governorship elections. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Why are you seeking to become governor of Lagos?
First, to deepen democracy in Lagos State.
Democracy is not deep enough here, you think?
Not deep enough.
Why do you say that?
Hitherto, nobody of my category, of my ethnic origin, had participated in Lagos State governorship election until now. We're going to deepen democracy because time was when people believed, wrongly though, that seeking to run for office in Lagos State is only for people from Lagos State. But the laws are clear with respect to that. That is, that if you're a citizen of Nigeria by birth, Section 177, you are free to run for office in any state of the Federation. There's actually no legal barrier. And there's actually no restriction. That is what people don't know. So what we're doing is going to have a long-standing national implication, trying to create impetus for the Yoruba man who is in Port Harcourt, who lives in River State, to aspire to run for political positions in that state.
Hasn't that been created already? Because one would say, sorry to cut in, one would think that it's because the Lagos State government over time, from 1999 till date, has always at least included non-indigens of the state in its cabinet. And that is the impetus you're talking about that has made you come out and to seek election.
Not really. You see, including, first and foremost, indigenship is not a requirement for participation in leadership recruitment process in any state of the Federation. It's not a requirement. It may sound like a little bit of patronage when you say you have put non-indigene. Who is an indigene anyway? That's the question you ask yourself. Indigene of where? I'm an indigene of Nigeria.
Others haven't been doing it.
Oh yes, that's why I said it's going to have long-standing national implication. We're doing something unprecedented, something new, trying to sensitize our people, Nigerians, wherever they are, wherever you live, wherever you contribute to development, wherever you pay taxes, which part of the country, any part of the country you live in.
Are you laying more emphasis on that as opposed to why?
That is just one point. The second point is that we want to add value. We want to lift up the welfare of people of Lagos. How? By introducing focused, flexible, fast, and friendly policies.
How?
In the areas of housing, for instance. Because what it might seem to me at the moment is that you want me to lay out our manifesto.
Do people have to know why they should vote for you?
Oh, sure. In summary, I cannot exhaust all, but in summary, 3 core areas we want to focus on. If you solve the housing problem of people of Lagos, housing, you would have solved almost 50% of their problem in terms of cost. So many millions of people of Lagos struggle to put roofs over their heads. And how do we want to solve that? By creating cheap housing facilities in many remote areas. If you visit places like Shibiri, Ajangbadi, Ketu, you just realize that people are living below the international acceptable standards.
Have you studied the current housing scheme of the current administration?
Oh, sure. Certainly, the current government, the outgoing government, I call them, because...
Still current, outgoing, current.
Oh, sure. I call them outgoing because we are anxiously looking forward to taking over from them. We do respect to them and with every sense of modesty and responsibility from 2015 May. We have looked at the housing policies, but we do not think the policies have addressed the issues. If you look at the critical mass of our people are still bottled up in ghettos It may shock you to know there are over 150 ghettos in Lagos State. By the time you go from Shibri to Ajangbadi to Ketu to Okokomaiko to so many others.
What do you want to do differently about the housing scheme that is currently going on now?
We're going to make houses affordable. We'll build through public-private partnership, and then lease.
How much?
We're looking at, it depends, there has to be categories, of course, depending on the size of families and
so what kind of categories are you looking at?
We're looking at about three categories. But don't forget the target people are the low class, middle and low class Lagosians living in these remote areas. Two bedrooms, 3 bedroom accommodations. There are a lot of spaces from my towards Badagry, land area, that are yet to be tapped into. The question I ask, what do you do with the people where they live presently? What we're looking forward to doing is building these housing schemes, moving people, if possible, to those locations, and then rebuilding the areas they're living presently, creating affordable accommodation for them. The second step we intend to take, probably, we actually be to...
Sorry, let me just clarify. So you can shed some more light up.
Yes.
You're talking about moving people from where they are to a different place. So you rebuild where they are, then they come back to the new place that you rebuilt.
They don't have to come back. They really don't have to come back.
Okay,
but what we're talking about, if you look at the problem, if you say, okay, let's move into Ajangbadi or Shibri, for instance, to build housing schemes. What do you do with the people presently living there? They can't live under the tree while you're doing the construction. So you first have to create accommodation, the buildings in bare lands, in places where there's available land, and then you relocate them. Then you can rebuild those other areas where they presently live, if they choose to, because you really can't. You don't force them to live. You have to create options for them.
You know, how well do you know Lagos? You know, I've seen people talk about ghettos and slums, and when we talk about housing, which is very key, no doubt. But how well do you know Lagos? Perhaps let's start mentioning some of these places you think are in a dire need of such housing.
I know Lagos well enough. For anyone who is aspiring to serve the people of Lagos in the office of governor, should have mastered the geography of Lagos, the population distribution, the infrastructure issues in the various parts of Lagos. But of great concern to me and to my party has to do with those slums and ghettos. You may not, I believe you know some of them, and there are many, as a matter of fact. I've mentioned some of them already, and there is no question that we have a blueprint to address these problems.
So that's for housing.
That's
what
for housing.
about
Transportation? What do I mean? The inland waterways of Lagos State is grossly untapped. The pressures on the highways, on the roads, could be reduced by the time you expand the inland waterways transportation system. Why should a Lagosian who's living in Festa, for instance, spend 2 hours or 1 hour commuting to Marina when he could as well get into a ferry at Mile 2 and in 15 minutes is in Marina?
But that is happening, isn't it?
It's just like we're going to. As a matter of fact, it appears to be an afterthought now because
an afterthought.
Oh yes, because this government
been there for years.
No. It hasn't been that efficient. We're talking about bringing in private investors. You build jetties. Government can build jetties. Private investors can now bring in ferries. You register them like you have the BRT system and all that. They can move in and get these things done. It is happening already. But to what extent has it been able to ease the pressure on the roads? Don't forget Lagos is 40% water.
Can you say it hasn't? And according to which figure or statistics?
To a limited extent, people are not even encouraged to use it. They don't even consider it safe. They don't consider it efficient, that means of transportation. But I'm saying that considering the geography of Lagos, which makes it clear that Lagos is 40% water, it's a huge opportunity for a government that is thinking, that is planning, that is innovating.
Pardon me to butt in. How many percentage of people do you plan to take off the streets and encourage them to use the ferry services in addition to those who are using it currently?
Surely, if you put away, if you move out even 30% of people who are always on the road, going to work, coming, if you take them away from the road transport to the sea transport system,
yeah, I know.
it will reduce.
Are you targeting
we are targeting
30%,
35
in the first 2 years, 3 years,
the first
4 years, or
in the first 4 years? We're looking at even the first 2 years to take over 30% of the pressure, the traffic, human traffic, and vehicular traffic. Of course, if you take out the human traffic, the vehicular traffic will also disappear, because it's natural. If you are using the ferry system, you will not have a need to drive a car.
So if you take 30% in the first 4 years,
in the first 2 to 3 years, because we're not going to wait until the end of our term to achieve this particular objective, because it's not so difficult and it's not it's not very much time consuming. It's a matter of putting infrastructure, the jetties. Once the jetties are available, investors will come in. Once investors see that it's a viable, profitable venture, they'll put money.